Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first Coach's Corner presented by Holton Meats. Alex Schlemmer along with Coach Horner here. And Coach, entering into your 21st season, what are you thinking about tomorrow night? You got a game. What's going through your head right now?
Oh, it's a lot of unknown at this point, like it is every year in week one. Not only unknown from the standpoint of your own team, but when your opponent has a brand new head coach, there's just a lot of unknowns. And I think our kids have been preparing. I think we're ready. But you just don't really know until you get out there the first game. So we're excited to get started and get going.
Yeah, absolutely. We're pretty excited here. This is something that we've never done before. We've tried the Coach's Corner a couple of years ago. We went up to Bacardi's, did a little coaches talk kind of deal, and this year we've made it official. The school district's got us some more gear. So what we had last year, we're building off of it and going a little bit step farther. So a little bit about last year, like we were saying, coming off that 5-1 season. Graduated about 15 seniors, but in typical Columbia fashion, put up 224 points on offense, only gave up 85 on defense. You going to try to build on that again this year? You going to have that same mindset, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you score more than they do, it's usually
it's
a good situation. Yeah, definitely a good situation. So, we've been fortunate enough the years past to have a lot of great athletes that can score points. And, one thing that's going to be different for us this year is in the last couple of years, we've had some really great athletes, and we've got some good ones out there again this year. But it's hard to replace a kid like number 28, London Little, 3-year starter for us. But, we're going to build off of that. We did lose a lot of seniors with 15 of them gone and only having 10 seniors this year, mixed in with about, I think, 8 or 9 juniors. We've got a lot of guys that are going to be playing their first snap on Friday night varsity football. So I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of nerves. And, they're just going to have to get in there and get the feet wet.
Absolutely, yeah. You eventually got to have that first snap, and I think me and Jared have talked about that in previous years where you're nervous. You just got to get that first snap in, and then after that you just play football, the game that you've played for some of these guys their entire life. But you mentioned London Little scoring 11 touchdowns last year, but that doesn't count. I mean, I think he had one throwing, running, punt return, kick the field goal, kick the PAT. That's not somebody that you replace. You're going to have to try to might have to get 3 or 4 guys to try to make that void.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You don't replace a guy like that with another guy, and certainly it would be awesome if you could. But we've got a lot of guys that know their role, and we'll have different guys stepping in different positions this year, and as difficult as it is, I think our guys are up for the challenge. We have a good core of seniors that did play last year, and so they know what to expect, and they're going to help these younger guys along, and it's their time to shine. That's just the way it is. Your senior year is a special year for you, and it's not about what happened last year or what might happen in years to come. It's about what's going to happen right now for them, and I'm excited for them to get on the field.
So now we'll flip into this year schedule, going back to the nine-team schedule again. Cahokia Conference we'll talk about in a couple weeks. Cahokia Conference is going to make a couple changes. Week 1, though, we got 628 as our official enrollment, according to the IHSA. So we're going in week 1 against Muscuda. Week 2, like always, we got Waterloo. And then you're going to have to help me out here. I think then it goes to Marquette.
That's correct.
Then what do you got? Salem.
The middle of the schedule is different for the first time in about 15 years for me, so I even have to look at that. But I think the thing that'll be interesting to see how we respond to is how tough our schedule is this year. And no disrespect to the people we played in the past, but a lot of smaller schools have been on our schedule in the past in the conference, and now that they're not there anymore, we replace them with schools our size. So we're playing 3 5A schools and 1 4A school on our non-conference schedule, and then everybody else that's on our conference schedule is a 4A school. So certainly it's the appearance of the schedule is a lot different than what it has been in the past. I think if you're looking at it on paper, it's definitely going to be a more challenging schedule than what it's been in the past. So that's going to pose, you have to play every week for us, and that's going to be something a little different.
Yeah, typically you get halftime into the game, and you're kind of trying to figure out, hey, how are we going to get some substitutes in here? And, in the postseason, that comes down to hurt you. You look back at Prairie Central, you didn't have much adversity throughout the season. You get into that Week 11 game, you get a little bit of adversity, and guys almost came back, but it's going to be something, like you said, it's going to be different. You're going to face adversity every week. You're going to face some tougher opponents, and it's going to be interesting to watch. And hopefully it keeps everybody involved in the games as much too.
Yeah, we've got to stay healthy. You know, when you have to play every week like that, especially against big schools, teams that are, you know, they're going to be going to match your size and your speed. You certainly, you know, you hope you stay healthy. That's going to be a big part of it. But, you know, the great thing about playing a tough schedule is that you know that you've been battle tested. If you can somehow squeeze out 5 or 6 or however many wins you want to get to make the playoffs, you know you've been battle tested and you're ready for that week 10, that week 11 opponent whenever especially if you've got to travel. So we're excited for the challenge. I think the kids are up for it. They've prepared, and we're ready to lace it up tomorrow night.
Just about 24 hours from now, you'll be lacing it up. So this year we'll talk about the roster. We got, like I said, coming off the 15 seniors we lost this year. Coming back, though, we got 10 seniors this year. So that's, I mean, at least you're retaining some of the numbers. Juniors, like you said, 8 or 9. A lot of new guys coming in, starting new positions. Defensively, just looking at it, you only have 3 returning starters. Coach Germain had this ready. 3 returning starters. Dom Vagley, the junior, for his 3rd year. Then you've got Jay Missler coming back as a 2nd-year starter. He's a senior. He'll be an inside linebacker. And you got defensive end Owen Brewer. He's a 2nd-year senior starter. And then after that, like you said, you might have a bunch of guys that are taking their first snaps, junior, senior, sophomore, whatever it may be. You're switching it all up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have 15 seniors. And you know, 2019 we graduated 16 or 17 seniors. And, you know, it's great to have that many, but whenever you have that many, a lot of times your juniors are the ones that don't get a lot of opportunity, you know, and so there will be a lot of seniors this year that'll be on the field for the first time. But again, you know, they played against those seniors last year in practice every day, so you know they've been tested a little bit. You know, there are some guys out here that are going to see their first varsity snaps even as seniors. You know, first varsity snaps that are not in a game that's out of hand, you know, a game where it's really meaningful. And so it'll be interesting, but, you know, we're looking forward to it. But, you know, it's going to take some time. There's no question about it.
So we'll talk about this offensively because I ask you this question every week. Coach, what's your key to the game? And you're going to tell me every week, got to control the trenches, got to control the line of scrimmage. So
that's football. That's what football is.
So everybody needs to be prepared for that. That'll be the coach's key this year. But defensively, you're looking there. You've got first year, 2nd year, and only coming in at about 210, 215 averaging on your defensive linemen there. So the way our defense is set up, the linemen shouldn't get all the tackles. It should be the linebackers. It should be the defensive linemen here and there. But linebacker-wise, what are you expecting? Jay Missler in there. Said his name a lot last year. Is he going to be anchoring you down in the middle of the field this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, Jay's a kid that saw considerable action, not only offensively but defensively last year. So he's going to be the guy in the middle that's going to have to do a lot for us. No question about it. He, you know, as inside linebackers, you know, your hope is that they're in on just about every tackle. So that's going to be really important. But you know, our kids have bought into our style, and our style is, you know, it's a lot about team defense. It's not about you being the guy that makes the tackle all the time. It might be about you setting up the play for somebody else to make the tackle. And, yeah, that's a key part, and that's hard for kids, high school kids especially, because everybody wants the stats. Everybody wants to get recruited. Everybody wants to be the guy that hears their name on the microphone and all that, and it's hard to buy in. But these kids have, you know, they've been easy to coach. They're eager to learn, you know, and so I'm excited from that regard. But, you know, there are a lot of kids that are seeing their first snaps, and like I said, there'll be some challenges. But we like the guys we have out there. You know, we have those 3 returning starters that you talked about. But if I don't know, touching on a few of the other ones, you know, Kyle McConaughey, who's going to see obviously a considerable amount of time on offense. He did last year. He's a kid that we didn't have to play on defense last year. But this year he's going to have to play some defense, and so we're excited about him. He's a great athlete. He's a great competitor, so we're excited about that. We've got a transfer student in Carter Hicks, who's he's a 6'5", 210-pound kid that he immediately steps on the field and he helps you just because of his size.
Just looking at him,
and he's I know he's excited to get in there, and we're excited about that. So, from there, a lot of the other guys, Brandon Jackson will spend some time inside linebacker. It's going to be new for him. He's a sophomore, maybe a little raw, but he's a tough kid. And, I've had both of my corners this year with losing the little kid last year who was our lockdown guy, having Jarvis and Meganson both at the corners, I feel pretty good about it. They've done really well in practice, so we feel really good about that. And the other team doesn't score, you can't lose. So no pressure, Coach Germain.
I don't know if there's an official stat on this, but last year it seemed like we had a defensive turnover, I guess you'd call it, takeaway, or a touchdown on the special team side of the ball. Somebody, like you said, you lose London Little, obviously, he's a special team guy, but Andrew Malding, I think he had 4 or 5 picks last year, and it just seemed like he was everywhere. He was a quiet kid that you didn't hear a lot about, but whenever you did, he was making some pretty big plays. So that's obviously going to be something that's going to hurt, and again, you just got to try to replace that guy. So now we switch over to the offensive side of the ball. 8 guys going both ways this year, which isn't something that we've seen lately out of a Columbia team, but with, only I think 35 guys on the team this year, you're going to have some of those guys going both ways, and hopefully guys are ready for that this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, especially with the weather. It's certainly a concern, but again, these guys have been training all during camp, and we think we're ready. But it is tough. You don't like to have 8 guys going both ways, and that's what the starting offense and defensive sheets say. Obviously, as the game progresses, you get into second quarter or so, guys are going to be tired, especially with the weather. So there's some other guys that we're not necessarily talking about or writing on the paper that'll be in to spell these guys and give them a break. It kind of has to operate that way. We've said all along, and every coach will tell you that you might have a kid that's more talented than another kid, but whenever that talented kid gets tired, he becomes less talented than the kid that's standing on the sideline fresh. Right. So we're not scared to use some of those other kids, knowing that some of our kids are going to get tired. And but we're excited about our offense. Moving McConaughey out to wide receiver. You got Vagley back. You got Brewer back on the offensive line. Matheny, who played some quality minutes last year, is going to anchor our line at the center position. So, we feel pretty good about it.
All right, well, we just dove into the little bit of the offense. We're going to hit at a break. We'll come back. We'll dive right back into the offense, and then we'll go on with some more coaches' stats, and we'll look into the Week 1 matchup against the Mascoutah Indians. We will be back to the Holton Meats Coaches Corner after this. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner, presented by Holton Meats here at Aces Wild. Alex Schlemmer and Coach Horner. Go back into the offensive side of the ball again. 4 new receivers this year I'm seeing on the play sheet here on what we have written down. You're still going to be led by Dominic Vagley, the junior quarterback. You're going to move McConaughey from running back to receiver potentially. I'm sure he could go anywhere. He's a good enough athlete for that.
He's our backup quarterback also.
And the backup quarterback. I don't think he's going to be on the line, is he?
No, definitely not that.
Not on the line. All right.
No.
So speaking of the line, coming in averaging 6'2", 230. Not too bad. I wasn't really expecting something like that when I was looking at the stat sheet at first, or the roster at first. But then once you add everything up, we do have a little bit of size this year that can hopefully control the line of scrimmage. I took a phrase away from you there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, the name of the game is controlling the line of scrimmage.
Right.
You can't get anything done if you can't control the line of scrimmage. And you know, we're going to have a tall task. There's no question about it. Mascouta's guys will be big. They'll be aggressive. They're always strong and quick, and you know everything that you want in all those kind of football players. But we do have a little bit of size. We never have a ton of size anyway. I mean, when you look at just the numbers and how much we weigh, but most of the time our kids are pretty good at getting off the ball and getting into people and maintaining blocks long enough to give our skilled kids a chance to go make plays. So. Just talking a little bit more about some of those guys. You know, Owen Brewer, I can't say enough great things about this kid, and there's a lot of great kids out there, but this is a kid that you want to talk about training all summer. You want to talk about being in great shape, and you know he's a quiet kid. He doesn't say much. He loves to be coached, and he's hard-nosed as can be. So he's really going to be the guy that's going to anchor a lot of things for us. You know, our center and Grant Matheny, he'll be our emotional kind of guy. You know, sometimes he lets his emotions get to him, but that's not a bad thing. You know, for me, I want those guys that are emotional as long as they can control it. You know, and those two guys are going to be our guys that really kind of set the stage for us on the offensive line. And you know, we do have a Tom Kenigstein coming back after starting a little bit last year as a sophomore, so he's got experience. He's a big kid. He's still trying to, I think, figure it out, but I think he's almost there. So we really like those guys. And then Jason Kuczynski, who's going to be a first-year starter guy. Again, quiet kid, and he's tough, and he's not real big, but he'll get after you. And so we like that about him. And Mason Schnabel's another kid that, you know, he kind of surprised us last year as a sophomore when he'd come into games for us and played on the defensive line. And he's grown 2 or 3 inches and put on about 40 pounds in the offseason just because he's, you know, maturing and getting bigger. And so I look for him to be a special kid for us too. And then, you know, obviously can't say enough about our quarterback. I've been starting since he's a freshman, the only kid in my 28-year coaching career that I've ever started as a freshman. And not because I had to, but because he was good enough to play. Right. And, you know, he's just that kind of special kid, and he showed it last year at the quarterback position and obviously on defense as well. He's kind of that it factor kind of guy. And we like Elijah Jarvis too. He's not very big as our running back, but
he runs hard.
He does run hard. He's only about 145 pounds, but I feel like he runs like he's 185 or 190. Again, he's not a kid that's not scared. But you know, one of the other running backs that's not on the list, Jeremiah Biltman, will see some time whenever Elijah needs a break. And he's a little short guy. He's not real big, but he is kind of stocky. And he's got great vision, good feet, and so I think he'll do some great things for us. And then the receiving core, you know, Jay played quite a bit of receiver last year, even though it was more from a kind of a sniffer standpoint, if you will, more of a tight end fullback type. This year he'll do that and play in the slot. And then with McConaughey out there, and then I think the Hicks kid will see quite a bit of time at one of the receivers just because he's a great target to throw to at 6'5", and then Seigan and Colin Seigan and Drew Meganson will split some time at our Z receiver, and depending on how tired kids get, you can see receivers, they could be moving positions all day long. So, but we got some guys who can make plays, and that's what it comes down to. Our linemen just have to give our guys just enough time to get in the open field and try to go score touchdowns.
So I'm going to ask you this, and you're probably going to tell me I can't give you that answer. We're going to be a balanced attack. You're just going to give me that simple answer.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to be balanced.
50-50.
Yeah, exactly.
50-50.
100. Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah, unless they line up with 6 or 7 guys in the box, and then we'll be 20-80. And they line up with 5 guys in the box, then we'll be 80-20. They predict what we do. I don't predict that.
After 5 years, I'm starting to understand what answers. I don't even need to give you a coach's interview anymore. I'll just be able to answer them for you.
That's right.
So I've done this for 5 years. You said you've been doing it for 28. This is your 21st season at Columbia. 146-60 overall, 96-20 in the conference. You're the longest tenured coach at Columbia, the most wins in school history. 11 conference champs, 9 of them have been undefeated. Now, you say all that.
That's just because nobody else would hire me.
Well, you say all that stuff, but you got to go back to your assistant coaches. Coach Germain's been there for 21 years with you. It started with Coach Touche, same way, but now you got Kendall, Stump, Baker, Amsden coming in. You got a pretty good crew that helps you out week in and week out and makes your job easier, I'm sure.
Well, being that practice started 5 minutes ago and I'm not there, yeah, I've got a good crew, you could say the least, and I don't feel at all concerned that I'm going to be a little tardy today. But no, what can you say? 21 years as a head coach, never thought I'd be doing it this long. Spent 5 years here as an assistant, but there's 2 things. Maybe I can say 3 things, 2 or 3 things I think that has led to all those wins. And number 1 on the list is having players. You got to have players. I don't care. You can put any kind of rinky-dink monkey system together that you want. If you got players, they're going to go out and win games, and that's what our kids have done all the way back from the buzzing half dozen that we had back in 2001 when we first started, and all the way up through the great years of 07 and 08 state finals, and through the years in 11 and in 2012. We've had a couple weird years in there, but we've had players. And great players and guys that are dedicated to your program come from great parents.
Right.
And that's the other thing that we've had. And then thirdly, great coaching staff. Anytime you've got consistency in your staff, when you've got consistency in your staff, that's huge. It really is. And Scotty being with me for 21 years, and the rest of the guys have been around for a really long time too. It's, our kids, it's just an easy transition from one level to the next.
Right. And you got to build it from the Blue Jay system all the way up to the JV system to the varsity, and you're just a guy that gets all the praise, but there's a lot of guys underneath of you too. But you also get the headaches too, I guess, if you don't win. But those gray hairs come in there a little bit too on those stressful days. But all that being said, week one, Mascoutah, haven't played them in 2 years now. Overall record 2-2 against Mascoutah. I believe 07 was the first year you lost. That was the year we went 8-1 in the regular season. Right. I can't think of when the other loss was, but then we won probably 3-4 years ago at their place, 36-35. That was actually me and Jared's first night. We had everything under control. We were doing good, and then we didn't hit the record button. So it was a great game that we called, but there was no proof that we called it. And then had the victory a couple years ago as well. So now going in, fifth matchup, what are you expecting out of them this year?
I expect the same from them that we got from them in 19, and even before that, I guess in 18, it was they're going to have athletes all over the field like they always do. They're a school of 1,100 students. They're going to be quick. They're going to be aggressive. They've got a great program over there in all their sports. They do have a new head coach this year, which, my guess is they'll just continue moving in the direction that they've been moving. He's definitely a good football coach coming from the Watseka program up there that's been successful. So they're going to be good. There's no question about it. A Hanson kid coming back at quarterback is going to be a load. I mean, this kid's legit. He's really good. Then they've got a Kendrick, I think's the kid's name, one of the receivers that's back. And he's lightning fast. He's going to pose some problems for us. But they're I guarantee you they're gunning for us, because the last two games we played, if you remember back to the first time we beat them here not too long ago, was London Little's 97-yard or 94-yard kickoff return in the wailing minutes of the game, and then a blocked field goal to seal it. And then in a game that looked like the tide was turning in 2019 with a score, I think it was 21-7, and they've got the ball on the 5-yard line, and Little picks a pass off and runs it back 97 for a pick six. Yep. They kind of put it out of reach, so they're going to be ready. I can promise you that. They're going to be ready.
And like you said, having a new coach, it kind of, I think we're going to watch this. I think we're going to see that. You're going to have to go on the fly, and I expect you and Coach Jermaine to be able to go on the fly. You guys have done it for this many years. I think you'll be all right. So we'll find out here in 24 hours and 6 minutes when week one officially kicks off underway. And, Coach, like you said, now you're 10 minutes late. Don't speed to practice. Make sure you get there. Get the boys ready to go for tomorrow, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, and hopefully we get an Eagles victory.
Appreciate it, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. This is the first week of the Coach's Corner presented by Holton Meats. We will be here every Thursday, 6:30. If anybody wants to come up, we're going to be doing them all up at Aces Wild. So come on up, listen to it live, and we'll be on YouTube on KCHS. Tomorrow night and every Friday we'll be starting at 6:30, 6:35 for the pregame show presented by Aces Wild. 7 p.m. kickoff, and we'll go from there. So thanks again. We'll see you all next week, and have a good night.